Hello and welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla. Of course, I am your mayor of this joint. We still have terrible internet at the office, so here we are. I'm very excited to be joined by a few guests today, but of course, the guy that I'm always excited to be joined by is your vice mayor and my thunderstick, the one and only Jesse Friedman. And Jesse, we have a loaded show today. We just can't wait to get to baseball. We have an absolutely packed show today.
Pitchers and catchers tomorrow, Derek. It's getting real.
Cannot wait. But of course, we were so excited that we needed to have a pitcher on this show. So of course, we're calling in a reliever, and we have one and only tea time, Ryan Thompson. I don't know if anybody else calls you that but us, but we have lovingly nicknamed you Tea Time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, man. We are thrilled to have you on, and it was an absolute blast to watch you guys last year, watch you join the team and have the success you had with the Diamondbacks at the tail end of last season. Obviously, 2023 was quite a year for you. You went from being kind of an up and down guy with the Rays to pitching high leverage innings for the Diamondbacks in the playoffs and making it to the World Series. How do you view that season now, looking back on it, now that you kind of moved on?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Can you give me a little, like, how'd the tea time thing start?
Okay, so there is first of all, one of our hosts is no longer with us, Sean DePaz. He is a huge fan of yours, and he's also a huge fan of, I think it's Travis Scott, who has a song called Meltdown, and it starts saying tea time, tea time, tea time over and over again. And actually, I'm sure he'll be here in the chat today to implore you to change your walkout music to that. I do not doubt that at all, but that's kind of where it started. And yeah, I mean, mostly it was just watching you. We had so much fun watching you last year come over to this team and help this bullpen go kind of from a weakness like it was at one point to just being a true strength for this team.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could go so far as to make that my walkout. I don't know if you guys read my arbitration thread last year, but meltdowns was a Fangraph stat that the Rays used against me last year.
Oh, no.
I don't know if I can go meltdowns.
Well, okay, we can't do that then. Sorry, Sean, we're shooting that down. But
but yeah, last year was a ride. It was a crazy ride for me. It was like as high as a high to about as low as it gets to getting all the way to the World Series. It was pretty crazy. I was one of the things that I'm very passionate about is clubhouse dynamic. And I was one of the key contributors to that clubhouse dynamic in Tampa Bay. And we had that 13-0 start last year, and it felt like the Rays were going to be the team that was going to end up in the World Series from the American League.
Yeah.
We were clicking on all cylinders. Life was as good as you can imagine, and all of a sudden it just felt like I hit a wall. All of a sudden I got out of favor. They lost faith in me. And, I had one bad game with Tampa Bay, really. I had 5 earned runs against the Yankees. We always talk about, oh, you had a 6 ERA with Tampa. You take away that one game, and I had like a 3. So, that's how it is with relievers. You have one bad game, it takes you months to get over that. So I had that one bad game, and I never got over that. And I was kind of up and down, like you said. And it just kind of got to the point where I kind of accepted my fate. I was going to be in AAA for who knows how long. The Rays had control over me, and they didn't really see me as somebody that they wanted in the major leagues. So I kind of accepted that. And my agent and I talked a lot about asking for my release, and we just didn't really feel like that they would do that. So it would have been just kind of a waste to even ask for it. And 5-6 weeks later, I get the call where I get released. And it was the most bittersweet call I've ever had in my life. And called my agent right away, and we're celebrating. It was funny. Like I get fired and we're celebrating.
Yeah.
And and then coming over to Arizona, it was a dream come true. I felt like all the things that maybe I didn't connect with Tampa Bay I was connecting with over here. And it just seemed like, it was like I was a long lost son that was meant to be found. I was a prodigal son that had left and come back. That's what it felt like to me. That it was just like people were just open arms. Look, we've been scouting you for years. We've been wanting you for years. This is a dream come true for us. It was just a mutual thing where I was so excited to be here with Arizona. They were excited to have me. They kind of pumped my tires a little bit. My first outing with Arizona, they put me in a safe situation. They had a lot of faith in me right off the bat, where last place I was, you could tell the way they were using me in the last year I was with them, that they were trying to get me in games where they felt like I wouldn't blow the game up. I was pitching with big leads. I was no longer as big of a leverage. That's something in my career that I've had really good, is a high leverage index. And so coming over here and being put in those situations, it felt like home again. And man, what a ride to get to the World Series, and what a group of guys to do it with. That's special in this game and in professional sports, to not only accomplish such amazing feats, but to do it around people who are just amazing human beings that you love, and you are willing to jump on a grenade for them because they're just such awesome people.
Yeah. Well, and
Ryan,
not pandering to you at all, but I just wanted to bring up, we have discussed that time and time again from the time you joined this team, that looking back at your numbers last year, we often said, like, really, there was one bad outing that kind of ballooned that ERA. And Jesse is not a big believer in ERA for that exact reason. He looks at peripherals, and we talked about how big of an asset we thought you would be, but it really did feel like the addition of you and a few of the other guys, Paul Sewald, really were what really was the thing that got this team from, potentially missing the playoffs to getting as far as they did.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. I think, I've said this a bunch. I think myself, Ginkel, and Sewald have been getting a lot of the credit. I think we did a really good job in the roles that were given to us. But, I think that whole bullpen, and not just the camaraderie that we shared, but the way that, the conversations that we'd have before the games, and the way that we'd work together before games and catch play, and the other guys that would get the ball to me, to get the ball to Ginkel, to get the ball to Sewald. Like, not only were we pitching good, but the entire bullpen was pitching good around when I got there. So I think that's another reason why people give me a lot of credit. They call me the stabilizer of the bullpen. But really, it's everybody saw that we were in need of that playoff push. Like, when I got there, I think we were like 6 games out of playoffs, and everybody just we didn't really feel the pressure. We were excited to make something happen when no one else believed in us. And, it was just, there was an energy in the clubhouse. It was pretty special. And our bullpen, we really showed out from top to bottom. Castro, Kyle Nelson, Saul Frank came in. Holy crap, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy was lightning in a bottle. McGuff, when he was pitching Mantiply, he pitched some huge innings for us down the stretch. I mean, he's a stud. He's a former All-Star. I mean, our bullpen is stacked, absolutely stacked. And that was easy for me to step in and to kind of have a role. With Tampa Bay, no relievers had roles. For the first time last year since I've been there, Pete Fairbanks became the closer, but we'd never even had a closer. Everyone would be like, you have 4 saves, you have 3 saves, you have 4 saves, you have 2 saves. Yeah. And so, like, I pitched a second inning. I've opened. We used to do like double opener. Fairbanks would throw the first inning. I would throw the second inning. I've gotten saves when I was with Tampa. So it's just like, I never had a set role, and it's not easy to get comfortable and stuff like that. And so over here, everybody had a decent idea of when they were going to pitch. And we always made sure we were prepared. And Fett down there in the pen, our bullpen coach, he's bar none. He's unbelievable. He gets us prepared, and I never go into the game not knowing what to expect.
I know you had thoracic outlet surgery a few years back, which is certainly no small task going through that as a pitcher. Merrill Kelly went through that a few years ago. Certainly he's come back from it and been phenomenal. But I'm curious for you, what was kind of that process like? I know that thoracic outlet has a reputation of being maybe even more risky than Tommy John surgery. And some guys have really struggled to come back from that. I imagine that was a bit of a journey for you.
Yeah, I'm with thoracic outlet surgery. I don't know how I feel about it. I've like the way that I am is I don't do anything without going down the rabbit hole. Like, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, you can call me whatever, but it's like I know everything about every detail about stuff that I involve myself in. And that was something that I felt like I lacked in this surgery. I just kind of went and did it. You know, it was a long process. It was probably 5 months of me trying to rehab. Maybe not quite that much, 3 to 5 months of me trying to rehab. And it was shoulder pain that I had. You know, a lot of people that have this syndrome, thoracic outlet syndrome, right? They have like cold hands. They have like unbearably, it's like tingling, numb. Some people like have like purple arms. They can't even sleep. It hurts so bad. Stuff like that. I never had any of that. I never had tingling, numbness, nothing that is common with thoracic outlet. I just had shoulder pain. But the thing was, is I tried to rehab it multiple times. I had CT scans, I had MRIs, I had X-rays, I had like nerve stuff done, nerve blocks. I had everything you can imagine, and everything was coming back, not just clean, but like where the doctors are like, dude, this is the best pitcher's shoulder I've ever seen. This is the cleanest, you know, it's like stuff where it's like, well, then why does it hurt?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What are we doing here?
Yeah. And so it was like thoracic outlet syndrome is dangerous because it's a diagnosis by exclusion in most cases. So very rarely in baseball specifically do you go see a doctor and they say, oh, yep, you failed these tests, you have thoracic outlet syndrome. Most of the time it's, well, we can't figure out what's wrong with you, so it's most likely thoracic outlet syndrome. And to me, that's dangerous because thoracic outlet surgery is removing body parts. You know, I'm now missing a first rib. I no longer have a pec minor, and I no longer have my anterior or my middle scalene. So I'm missing 4 body parts now. And like coming back from that, you know, to be honest with you guys, I'm not sure I needed that surgery. I'm really not. And I came back in 2022 still feeling shoulder pain. And I kind of just pretended like I didn't feel it, you know, because I'm just like, well, I got this crazy surgery and it didn't work. So it's either I'm going to retire or I'm just going to pitch through it. And I just kept pitching through it. And I just was working with pitching coaches and whatnot, and just kind of like not really telling them that I'm hurting, but like really trying to have them help me with mechanics. And sure enough, in June of 2022, I figured something out with as simple as the way I was pulling my hand out of my glove that was pre-tensioning my anterior shoulder and my anterior deltoid that was causing that pain. And so I figured that out with my hand, and I no longer had the shoulder pain. So I do have a history of nerve symptoms, and I think that the surgery that I had did help that. So I don't think it was a completely lost cause, but like I'm always careful. Like when I have teammates or friends that are talking about thoracic outlet surgery, you know, I try to educate them on, okay, think about what this surgery is, right? It's thoracic outlet. You have a thoracic outlet space in here. Like that's what it's all about. Your body has a suspension system that's supposed to suspend your shoulder to where nerves and arteries and all that can go through and not get pinched. So when you have these symptoms, or you may potentially have the syndrome, that's because this space is collapsing, right? You have something in a spot that's not supposed to be there, or you have a tight muscle that's causing tension and pinching against these arteries or nerves. So if you had, let's just say, kneecap pain, and it's because your quad is tight, you're not going to remove your quad or remove your kneecap.
I hope not.
I mean, it's common sense. You just treat the quad, right? You roll out the quad, but it's like this space is so understudied that it's a new thing in the last 10 years or so, where people don't really know how to treat this area, how to get a chiropractor to reset the first rib, how to treat the pec minor and these scalene muscles and get them to calm down and get everything back to where it's supposed to be. So really, thoracic outlet syndrome is tight muscles. because bones don't move on their own. That first rib doesn't just go into that space. You have tight muscles that pull the first rib into that space. So really we should be treating these, like before I had my surgery, I never had any of that stuff. I never had my first rib manipulated by a chiropractor. I didn't do any of that stuff. It was just like, okay, your MRIs are clean. All the rehab we're doing on your shoulder is not helping. So let's go get this surgery. So I'm a little bit passionate about TOS, as you guys can probably tell.
Well, no, that's fascinating though. And I understand, because from your perspective, you are left wondering, like, yes, there were things that improved because of it, but could you have possibly improved those things in a different way without having that particular surgery? And in some cases we kind of do leave this up to doctors and such to decide. And I mean, it does feel like we're a little bit powerless when they tell us that we need to have a surgery that requires us to, as you said, remove body parts from inside of us that we will not get back. Like, you're not replacing those with other things. So
did they I have to ask Ryan, did they offer you the rib after it was removed, and did you accept it? I asked Merrill that question too. He said he was a little bit tempted to take it home, but he didn't.
Okay, so I'm trying to think where it's at, but I have it, and I got a necklace made with it.
Oh my God, let's go.
Yeah, so it's like
that's incredible.
Necklace, and at the end, I got the first rib. It's probably like this big, and it just dangles down right here.
Well, then the surgery was worth it, right?
Yeah, for some jewelry.
Yeah, that's a good keepsake. Well, it does feel a little bit like you were always destined to be a part of the Arizona Diamondbacks, because from my understanding, you were a big fan of Byung-Hyun Kim when you were younger. And I just have to ask, how does that happen? How did you become a fan of his and then eventually actually start to model your throwing style after it?
So when I was a little kid, I was obsessed with baseball. Obsessed. Like, I don't have an addictive personality, but I have an obsessive personality. Like, when I like something, I like it.
Yeah,
and
I like it a lot.
like I used to be ranked like number 3 in the country in James Bond trivia. Like, that's how obsessive I get in things.
That's the most random thing to be ranked number 3 in the country I've ever heard.
Dude, you're telling me, but it's like I get obsessed with things, and so with baseball, when I was a young kid, I was obsessed with baseball, and I collected these MLB Showdown cards. I had everybody's card, all the video games and whatnot. But I used to play wiffle ball in my backyard with all my neighbors. And the way that we did it is we like invented our own. We called it Major League Wiffle Ball, our own like league, and we wrote down all of the rosters. We had like a folder, and we wrote down all the rosters of the current teams. It was like 2000, 2001, 2002, around then. And usually from the video game and just watching on TV, we like learned all of the pitching mechanics and all of the hitting stances or batting stances for all the players in the league, every single one. And so when we would play wiffle ball, we'd say, okay, what team are you going to be today? And you'd be like, oh, I'll be the Angels. And I'll be like, and I love to be the Diamondbacks just because of the roster and because I liked some of the stances and I liked some of the pitching mechanics.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'll be the Diamondbacks. And so we'd pull out the sheet from the folder and we'd be like, okay, this is the lineup I'm using today. And be like, okay, got Luis Gonzalez at the plate, or whatever. And so I would be, Randy Johnson or something pitching. And then when it's not working anymore, just like real life, I guess, I would bring in Byung-Hyun Kim. And and so then I would start throwing submarine, and like I learned how to throw strikes just by doing that and just like knuckle scraping, and my neighbors could never hit it. So I always wanted to be like Byung-Hyun Kim. But I also always wanted to be like El Duque, Orlando Hernandez.
Yeah. Yes.
With that high knee kick. And so when I was in high school and college and all the way until low A baseball in Quad Cities, I had the El Duque leg kick, and then I would come submarine like Byung-Hyun Kim.
That's a lot. That is a lot.
What a combo.
You got to find some videos of me pitching in college because it's fun.
I have to ask, did you have a favorite batting stance to do when you were doing when you were playing wiffle ball in the backyard?
Gary Sheffield, of course.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
we all did
It's a
Gary
given.
Sheffield.
Yeah. If you didn't do Gary Sheffield, you didn't watch baseball.
Yeah, exactly. I did have to ask, when you came in the clubhouse last year, was there someone you connected with immediately? Like you said, you're a big clubhouse guy, and obviously I'm sure you kind of introduced yourself around, but was there someone that you that befriended you or you kind of connected with right away?
Yeah, that's a good question, because that was something that I thought was really amazing about this team. Was I felt like I was connecting with everybody. Like, it was kind of wild. Like, I was connecting on deep levels with everybody. And that's, it was crazy because I'd only known Nick Ahmed for like a week before he got released, but it felt like my brother died. Like, that's how much of a connection I built with him in a week.
Yeah.
Like, I was like crying when he got released, and I was only there for a week. So it's like, that's to tell you like how just how like connected that clubhouse is. But something that I've learned throughout my big league career is how dangerous a connected team is. And I've seen it with Tampa Bay, how we've been in stages where we're really, really connected and how we dominate, and the team's potentially even better at phases where we're just kind of like, maybe we got issues, or maybe there's a guy that gets brought in that you could say is a cancer or whatever you would say. But when the clubhouse is not vibing as much, I guess is what I would say, we just don't play very well. And it's like, it's lost in baseball, I think, sometimes, because it's such a, pitcher's got the ball, batter's got the stick, so it seems like it's just a one-on-one thing. You lose the team aspect a little bit, but man, and I can't explain it, but that stuff matters. And so when I came in here, I wanted to kind of bring in some of the stuff that I had learned, and that's the American Latino connection, and that's the veteran to rookie connection. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to be as close and as good of friends as I could be with the Latinos on our team, and to be as good of friends and as close as I could be with some of the rookies on our team. And so that was something that I put myself out there to kind of get to know those guys a little bit stronger. And so I really felt like I was connecting with Jarvis and Fafat and Saul Frank and Castro. I would probably say my two best friends on the team last year were Castro and Frias. We hung out every day. Our lockers were by each other, and I played Castro as my catch partner. And it's just like we were tight. We called our little group of three the Oreo. It was just like we were super tight, but it's like I say that just because it's unexpected. A lot of times in the big league,
definitely.
A lot of times in the big leagues, like, Latinos just kind of hang out with the Latinos, and the American guys hang out with the American guys.
Sure. And
so with us, it was just like we were so integrated, and our bullpen was so tight, and staff and player, like there's no like I don't know. It's like, I feel like from what I've heard throughout a lot of different organizations, just kind of staff kind of stays themselves and players are their own little thing. But it's like, here, it's just like, man, like I'm tight with pretty much everybody that's a staff member here as well. So I did realize that I stole Tori's line.
Perfect though. We got a shirt. It's great.
Yeah.
Last thing for me, Ryan. I know you're in seminary school right now. What is it like balancing being a seminary school student with also being a pitcher in the major leagues? I imagine that's a bit challenging.
It's a huge challenge. I knew it would be a challenge, but that's why I did it. Why I was trying to figure out what my next step would be in my faith. And, I really kind of looked at myself in the mirror last year or 2 years ago, and just kind of like, man, the stuff that I preach in the clubhouse, because that's something that I care about a lot, is clubhouse evangelism, because like we live such a fast-paced life where we don't really get a chance to like slow down and contemplate the big questions about life. It's just, we're so go, go, go. It's like, do we ever really sit down and have quiet time and think about what's the purpose of life, why I'm here? Like, was I created, or did did I evolve from evolution, or is there a purpose? What am I supposed to do? Like, is there reasons why things align the way they do? We don't really have a chance to like think about those things.
Right.
So for me, like when I'm coming in the clubhouse and I'm challenging people by asking them these questions and preaching to them the Bible and the gospel, it's like, it's a pretty like intense things that I'm saying. Like, I'm telling you that there's a heaven and a hell, and there's a way to go to heaven. And if you don't do these things, then you'll go to hell. Like, I'm telling you these things. That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And so if I'm saying these things, like, number one, I should be 100% convicted in what I believe, which I do. But then two, it should be that I should know all the questions that you may have. I should be able to know the nuances of these things. But then the third thing, which is why I went to seminary, was if I believe these things, that Jesus Christ is the only way to get into eternal life, and I'm saying that anybody can have it, like, I should be dedicating my life to this thing that I claim I believe. And if I'm not dedicating my life to it, like, I just don't really feel like you should take my word for it, right?
Sure.
Like, if I'm saying that this is available to everybody, but I'm just kind of taking it lightly, like, I don't really know if I was on the other side, if I would really take my word for it. So
Right.
I felt like I needed to dive into this even more and to just give the Lord more of my time. And it's been phenomenal. I've been learning things that I didn't even think that, like, the way I'm reading scripture is completely different now. It's been a phenomenal undertaking for me, but it has been a challenge. Last term, I took too many classes, and I mean, I took 2 classes my first term, and I just crushed it. And so I'm like, oh, I got this. I'll take another class. And so I was in AAA, just rotting in AAA. And I was like, dude, I'll take another class. I'm going to be done in the middle of September anyways. I'll be home on my couch. Like, I got this. I'll take another class. And then the series of events that happened, and I come over to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we play for an extra month, extra 5 weeks.
Right.
and I'm just drowning in the schoolwork. Like, we're like getting ready to go out to the national anthem. I'm like, guys, wait for me. I got to submit this paper, in the NLCS Game 7. I'm like, guys, almost done. They're like, dude, get out of here.
Doing homework in the bullpen, that's another level of commitment. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, before we let you go, but these 2 questions couldn't represent me and Jesse more than that, but I'll let you get out of here. I do need to get your explanation on one controversial opinion you have, and that was when you said that The Rock is the right choice to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and I need to know why. I need to know why The Rock is the right choice.
So, are you a WWE fan?
I'm a Cody crybaby, if you would, but on a deeper level of knowing Cody personally. But okay. I also am a huge Rock fan, so I'm very conflicted here. I just needed to get your take on The Rock being the chosen choice if that's the direction that they went.
Yeah, I think that the way they're actually doing it right now is pretty good. The way they turned The Rock heel.
The press conference was great. The press conference was incredible.
That was the best thing I've seen in a long time. It was awesome.
It really was.
But I think that The Rock's the right choice because that family the whole bloodline saga, the whole tribal chief dynamic, and you have The Rock, who's the most famous person on planet Earth, come back. It's like that's the next, like they always say, like Paul Heyman uses they talk about their stories in innings, right? And it's like that's the next inning of the story is The Rock coming back and saying, okay, like you claim you're the tribal chief, like he could be like, I left wrestling to make 10 times more money than you make, to where I can feed the family, that you're over here just not even showing up to work and you're making 1/10 of what I'm making. You're
making too much sense. You're making entirely
for me, it's just like Cody's going to be around for a while. You make him not finishing his story now is just like Rocky 2. Like you can stretch it out longer. this might be once in a lifetime to do Rock versus Roman. So that's kind of my take.
That's a good point.
But the Cody thing is phenomenal. And I just think that the way that we're designed in today's world is we want what we want right now. And I think the long-term storytelling is even better if we can wait.
The longer you can dangle in front of us, the more we want it, and it'll be that much more satisfying when it happens. So that's a good case for that. But
you take the belt off of Roman, you can't put it back on him to break Hogan's record. So you only have one chance at that right now. I don't know if they'll ever do it again.
We're going to talk about this for hours at Salt River Fields at some point, but I appreciate you stopping by today, man. We thank you so much, and we are very excited to see you guys out at Salt River Fields tomorrow.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Thanks,
appreciate
Ryan.
it. That was Fantastic. All right. Well,
Gabriel says in the chat, just smile and wave, Jesse, and that's about it. I mean, that's about all I have to add to that last piece of the conversation there. But it's okay. I'm glad you had your fun, Derek.
I had to, and I knew he was going to go off, but I didn't expect that, and that I appreciate very much. He's fantastic, and that's going to be a blast to see all those guys out there at Salt River Fields tomorrow. Of course, it's great to see all of you guys here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel right now. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when any of our wonderful shows go live. Leave us a review. We always appreciate that feedback. And of course, if you're listening on the audio podcasting side, we appreciate you subscribing there as well. Leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate those. We very, very much need those. Circle K, by the way, I had to stop on my way home on my very, very quick drive home to get gas. And I was very tempted to run inside, Jesse, because I needed a drink. I needed snacks. I needed lots of stuff. All of a sudden, we once again had to pivot and lose our internet connection. But Circle K, they got me out of there fast with cheap gas. They got me filled up. And of course, you can do the same. If you have not signed up for their Inner Circle membership program, do so now. Of course, if you do so, you will save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. You will also save 3 cents off per gallon every day after that. All you have to do to sign up is to join the Inner Circle for free right now by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. Participating locations, visit circlek.com for details. Also, for more than 84 years here in the Valley, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted credit union. They got me started on my home ownership journey, which I am currently in, thankfully, safe here doing the show. And of course, they can get you started on your home ownership journey as well. You can look to Desert Financial for mortgages, checking and savings accounts, loans, credit cards, and so much more, including investment options. Make sure to join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and giving back to its members. Make sure you join a credit union that has your financial interests in mind. When you open a free checking account online, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Jesse, we're not done with the guests. You know, we're not in studio, so we just invited everybody to the party, and I'm very excited to be joined by one of our friends from the Diamondbacks beat, from Arizona Republic and azcentral.com. Theo Mackie is here. Theo, how you doing, sir? Welcome in.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I got a lot to live up to. Ryan was
you do.
That was a heck of an interview.
Yeah, you have to talk to us a lot about pro wrestling. That's for sure. That's the first 5 questions I have.
I might be able to give you 2 seconds of content on pro wrestling.
I couldn't even do that, Theo. So
I appreciate at least that much. How was your off season, sir? I know it wasn't very long this time.
Yeah, short off season, right? But no, it was good. Got some rest and ready to be back out there at Salt River tomorrow.
Yeah, exciting. You were out at Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
Are you gonna ask about the Phoenix Open? Is that what
I was going to ask him about being out of the Phoenix Open.
Yeah. We don't really want to talk to you about baseball, Theo. We just want to talk to you about your experience covering the Phoenix Open and the ruckus that was. I personally have never been. So fill me in on what I missed out there.
No, I figured you guys were going to ask me about that. Yesterday, I got a call from this woman from some sports podcast in Australia who wanted to have me on to talk about the Phoenix Open. That's how much of worldwide headlines this thing was making. It was crazy. On Saturday, I was trying to go catch up with a golfer who was on the 14th hole. So I was walking from the clubhouse to the 14th hole. It probably took me 45 minutes to walk 3 holes. God. It was a zoo. I was actually like during the peak of the craziness on Saturday when they had to shut down the course and the alcohol sales and everything. I was inside writing a story, which was the worst timing ever because I missed the peak craziness, but it might have been good to be inside.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what they had 2 years ago was 0 arrests. This year it was 64 arrests. So I think when you're talking about things going off the rails, you can see what what people are talking about.
I heard that they actually just shut down the beer stands because of like the traffic flow was the big problem, and where people had to like all walk through one walkway versus it actually being drunken people causing them to have to rethink their alcohol policy.
Yeah, I think it was crowding. It was
That's
like
crazy.
normally so much of the course people are standing on grass hills and whatnot, and all of that had turned to mud because of the rain. So people had to condense into like the few concrete walkways that there are. And so like people were shoulder to shoulder, completely not able to move. And at one point they were letting people in without scanning tickets because there was like a crush at the gates and they had to let people in.
Yeah.
And then they stopped letting people in because the course got too crowded, and it was just I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I'm sure they're going to figure something out, whether they sell fewer tickets next year or limit alcohol sales or whatnot. But yeah, I think there's two things. I think there was the crowding was over the top, and then I think the debauchery. I mean, obviously that's the fun of the Phoenix Open. Like, you're not going there to be completely sober and golf clap at a few nice shots.
Right.
But there's a line, right?
It got out of control. It felt like. I mean, I saw a lot of like TikToks and stuff of golfers yelling at people to shut up and just things like that, like general decorum kind of things. And like, it's understandable, especially on 16. You're not going to get you're going to get a rowdy crowd over there, but it did feel like things kind of crossed the line, and maybe it was just the fact that people were kind of just stuck, like walking around in these long lines and long crowds. But you had a hilarious exchange with Zach Johnson, and how did that go?
No, I didn't think that Zach was too confrontational or anything. I saw a lot of the replies when people were getting annoyed at him. I don't know. I think the line that a lot of people picked up on is when he asked who I work for, and I think that was like honestly he just I don't cover the PGA Tour every week. He doesn't know who I am. And so he's like, okay, are you legit? Like, do I want to give you a real answer? And then I said, I work for the Republican. You did give me a real answer. So, fair enough. But I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously people were criticizing him for being a little bit harsh and, saying this has been over the top for 21 years and just kind of like, I don't know, criticizing the tournament without also complimenting it for its strengths. Whereas I talked to Billy Horschel too, who's another guy who, as you said, was on a video yelling at fans. And Billy was like, yeah, I love this tournament. Like, it's one of my favorite events on tour, but there's a line, I don't want people to die. I don't want, I don't want people to get hurt. I think there has to be kind of a line that we walk where people are having fun. And that goes over way better with the general public when you're saying, yeah, this is a great tournament, but we have to find the right balance. And I think people obviously kind of latched on to Zach saying, no, I don't like this tournament at all. And people are like, okay, then why do you come? But I do. I mean, I thought Billy's comments were insightful where he was saying, look, there's just a line. And when he got mad was because a fan was yelling in the backswing of this guy who was in his first ever, it's actually ASU guy. He was in his first ever PGA Tour event. And so fans yelling in his backswing, messing him up, like this is a life-changing week for that guy. So Billy's point is, you're messing with these guys' livelihood. And I can understand.
Oh, he was 100% right, in my opinion, by the way. When I saw that video, I was like, he's spot on here. And I mean, sometimes that's in sports, we have to get that, right? Like we have fans that cross a line. We've had fans that cross the line with Tommy Pham. And, we had that last season. We've had all sorts of instances where players do kind of have to snap back. And I think, golfers get kind of a reputation of being a certain way, but like, yeah, they have to clap back too. They have to let fans know that they're kind of, like, again, ruining a fun time. It's a fun event, but again, when you get so drunk that you're falling down in the mud and you're screaming why golfers are taking a swing, you've gone too far. You forgot where you're at.
How about the guy sitting on a stool, like peeing himself?
Yes,
That was a pretty brutal one. Like there's a guy sliding down a mud pile, that's fun. But a guy who's so drunk that he's peeing himself on a stool.
Right. We've gone too far.
Yeah. Maybe you don't want to see that.
All right. We're actually going to talk about some baseball now. I insist.
Yes, fine.
So
Theo,
slides at Salt River Fields.
Yes.
Yes. So baseball prospectus as of right now, Theo, has the Diamondbacks at 85.7 projected wins for 2024, which I believe is the highest in the National League outside of course, the Dodgers and the Braves, who are far and away above everyone else. Do you feel like 85.7 is fair? Does that strike you as too high, too low? Where do you stand on that number?
That sounds right. Honestly, I think the projections are pretty fair. I think the nature of these projections, and Dan Szymborski is always going at people on Twitter on this, is like the fans of good teams always think that their projections are going to be too bad. And then you look at a bad team and you're like, why are these projections so high? And that's the nature of projections, right? They're going to be compressed. You're not going to project a team to win 105 games, even though there is probably going to be a team somewhere that wins 105 games this year. You can't predict who it's going to be. So, So when you're a good team like the Diamondbacks and you see that number 85.7, you're like, man, they went to the World Series last year. It can be frustrating, but I think that's fair, right? You're projecting them to win 2 more games than they did a year ago. They improved their team from last year. Their, third base should be, a 180 from where it was a year ago. The rotation should be better. Those are 2 huge holes that they've really addressed. DH should be better too. So I definitely, think you're going in with a little bit more optimism, but you also have to look at last year and think, maybe there was a little bit of overperformance in that first half. They were fairly healthy. They had some guys in the first half get some good batted ball luck. So, if you're saying, last year, maybe it was a 82 win team, if you're, ignoring some of the outlier things, then you're projecting a 4-win improvement. Like that seems pretty fair to me.
Overall, this team changed a lot throughout the course of last year. And I felt like they went from not really knowing who their identity was at the beginning of the year to kind of not being afraid to make some of those big moves. We saw them make parting ways with guys that have been part of the team for a while. We know we parted ways with Madison Bumgarner, and that was a difficult decision financially, especially. But it feels like this team kind of has a bit more of a running start this year, that they kind of know who their identity is and know who their core is. And now, like you said, they went out and they added the pieces this offseason that kind of, maybe addresses a lot of their weaknesses and shortcomings during, the offseason. Does that give you a kind of a feeling that, obviously with the Dodgers being what they are, it's not like, does that give you a chance at the NL West? It really still doesn't feel like that, but it does give you a feeling that this team has a good chance to make the postseason and kind of continue some of this success that we saw in the postseason, more than it being kind of a fluke.
Yeah, it's baseball, right? I'm not going to rule out them winning the NL West. Obviously, no one's predicting that, and it would be almost crazy to predict anyone other than the Dodgers. Sure, but who knows? Right. Would you have projected that? At the beginning of July last year, the D-backs would be leading the NL West. So who knows? But no, I think that point about this team being prepared to hit the ground running more than last year's is a good one. Like last year, if you remember at the beginning of spring training, Hazen was asked about the expectations. He said, we want to be in contention in September. If we ask Hazen this week what his expectations are, his answer is not going to be, we want to be in contention at the beginning of September.
Yeah, we want to be playing meaningful baseball games in September. Yeah, that's not going to be the answer.
That is no longer the goal. And when that's your goal and you're kind of in that in-between spot, like, okay, maybe we're turning a corner, maybe we're not, hopefully, you're competitive. That's when you have guys like Madison Bumgarner in your rotation. That's when you make a off-season move to fill a rotation hole. No disrespect to Zach Davies, but who had a good year in 2022. But that's not a splashy move to fill a rotation hole. Bringing back Zach Davies on a cheap contract, going out and getting Eduardo Rodriguez, That's a move that you make when you're expecting to contend and you're expecting to, and the same thing at third base, like they got last year. They thought, okay, maybe Rojas won't, maybe we want to compliment Rojas, so we're going to go out and get Evan Longoria. Cheap, low risk move, good clubhouse presence. Longoria had some great moments for them last year, but you go out and trade for Eugenio Suarez, and that's a completely different ball game. And those are the type of moves that showcase an intent that, this is a team that wants to be back in October and deep into October. And, you're making the moves to not have any weaknesses on your roster rather than entering and saying, well, I hope this works out.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference compared to last year.
Theo, I'm curious, spring training pitchers and catchers report tomorrow. Of course, we have to be there entirely too early in the morning. We've discussed this offline.
We do.
It feels like it gets earlier every year, I swear. But biggest spring training storyline for you. Obviously there's a number of them. There's a few different competitions that are going to be happening. But what is sort of at the top of your list in terms of things to be watching this spring?
I think the number one thing that you're going to be looking for is that fifth starter spot. Like that is obviously completely up in the air. I think if you surveyed 100 Diamondbacks fans, you might get 50 Tommy Henry predictions and 50 Ryan Nelson predictions. So that'll be interesting to see how that breaks down. Like this team has a lot of confidence in Ryan Nelson, and last year he didn't perform well. Like straight up, he couldn't strike anybody out. He did not have a pitch to go to get guys to strike out. That's something, they sent him down for like 3 starts to Reno to try to in August to try to get him to figure it out. It didn't work, but with a whole offseason, it'll be interesting to see if Ryan comes in and shows some of that ability that he showed in 2022 and in the minors to get more swing and miss. And I think he probably, you would probably say he has a higher ceiling than Tommy Henry. Tommy Henry maybe has a higher floor. So that'll be interesting to watch for. Another thing that I think is less obvious to watch for, I'm really curious to see what Alek Thomas's swing looks like. Like this is a guy that has so much potential that, obviously he's a great defensive center fielder. He's got pop. We saw some of those flashes in the playoffs. We've seen for 6-week stretches what Alek Thomas can be. But the last 2 years, the fact is his OPS plus has been 75 each of those 2 years. Right, and he kind of has this swing where he pulls off towards first base, and they've said they don't want to, it's hard to change something like that dramatically during the middle of the season, but he's had 3.5 months to work on it. Like, when Alek Thomas is out there taking cuts next week when hitters report, is he still going to be pulling off towards first base, with that kind of awkward swing? Or are we going to see a little bit of a more controlled motion? And I think if he is able to retool his swing, and elevate himself to kind of that next tier of center fielder, that could be a really big storyline from spring training.
The Giants signed Jorge Soler to a 3-year, $42 million deal. It was kind of close to what the Diamondbacks signed Lourdes Gurriel to.
Yeah, 3 and 42, identical. Exactly the same.
What do you think that was well out of the Diamondbacks price range as far as what they were seeking for a DH prior to signing Jock Peterson? And what are your thoughts on that deal with the Giants? Do you think the Diamondbacks maybe should have pursued Soler instead of Gurriel?
I think it's a good deal. I think Soler's a good hitter. Obviously brings a lot of pop. And Jesse and I had actually talked like in November. I think we had been discussing, would Soler be a fit for the Diamondbacks, just over text. I remember having those conversations. And I think maybe if they don't bring Lourdes Gurriel back, then the equation, you're viewing Soler as more of a DH. But in terms of the lineup, okay, then you're missing that big right-handed power bat, and going out and getting a guy on a 3-year deal probably makes a little bit more sense. Once you go and get that 3-year deal for a right-handed power bat, and it's like, okay, now you're going to go out and spend another $42 million on a guy who is has a fairly similar comp in your lineup. So I think it made a lot of sense for the Diamondbacks to then say, okay, we added a right-handed third baseman. We brought back a right-handed left fielder. Our lineup is significantly more right-handed than it was 6 months ago. we're going to switch that up. We're going to bring in a lefty at DH on a 1-year deal. And that gives them flexibility too, right? Now they can see, okay, if next year Jake McCarthy really figures things out and you're going into 2025 and Jake is penciled into your starting outfield, well, then there's that spot for Gurriel. If you get a 3-year deal for Gurriel and a 3-year deal for Soler, then, what happens if Jake McCarthy is, breaks out? And he's not the only one, other guys in the system. You just kind of cut off your avenues a little bit when you're signing 2 guys in their 30s who play outfield / DH to, are both right-handed power hitters to similar deals. So I think it made a lot of sense for them to kind of switch that up, do a 1-year deal for Jock, get that left-handed bat in there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I definitely see where you're coming from on the part of just the length of the deal. Signing 2 players to 3-year contracts who were both right-handed hitters. Maybe there comes a day in a couple years when Lourdes is no longer great defensively, and you'd like to have the DH slot open for him from time to time. Having both of those guys, it would make it difficult. I do have to say though, my initial reaction to seeing the move was 3 and 42 seemed a lot lower than what I expected Soler to get. Coming off the season he had, being an all-star, hitting 36 home runs, and the price tag between him and Jock Peterson, at least on an annual basis, is not very big. I think the Giants gave him some big signing bonus or something.
What were you expecting on Soler?
I think I had it closer to 50, like 3 and 50, something like that. Maybe slightly north of 50. He was just a really good hitter last season. A mid 850 or 850 OPS, something like that. If the Diamondbacks could have Jorge Soler instead of Jock Peterson for about $2 million more, at least in the first year, that's interesting to me. Like it's closer than I think I expected it to be. But I see where you're coming from. Maybe signing 2 guys to 3-year contracts, it kind of limits your options down the road. So, I understand where you're coming from for sure.
The other thing I'll say is, like, I think there's a little bit of, for Jock, I think there's a little bit of recency bias that was hurting his market. Like 2 years ago, he was a really, really good hitter. And his batted ball numbers this year were no different than they were 2 years ago. And Hazen mentioned that in the press conference after announcing that signing. Is like, we expect this guy to be back closer to what he was in 2022. I just pulled up his baseball reference page. He had an 874 OPS, 2 years ago.
He was really
if
good.
You get that for the price tag, that's a steal. If you're looking at last year, Soler is better. If you're looking at the last 2 years, Soler is a 798 OPS. Jock has an 821. So you're getting the better guy over the last 2 years. I'm not saying that means he's going to be better in 2024, but if you flip the order of 2022 and 2023, and Soler had been worse this year than Jock, then how different would the contracts be?
That's a great point. And I think, Gabriel ripped to the Soler Power merchandise. We're going to have to scrap that entire line that I had ready to go. I will say, though, that there's something about Jock in that first press, availability that he had that felt very determined. I think we've all kind of decided that, he's going to be a DH and a situational DH. And instead, he brought up wanting to work with Dave McKay and wanting to get better both defensively and, in different hitting situations. And I like that. Even if it doesn't really come to fruition, I do like that he does seem very motivated to contribute to this team as much as possible. And, you take that and you add in what you just brought up about the last 2 seasons, and all of a sudden it's a much more appealing, situation. And I can't wait to see what Jock can do. I'm very interested to see how this team all comes together, but I'm also very interested to see if you are going to continue to be Steve Gilbert's translator when it comes to lingo for the young people, like slang. Are you going to keep teaching him about different things that the young people are saying these days?
Well, I'm 24 now, so I'm losing touch with the.
Get it?
If I go on TikTok these days, there are things that are over my head. So Soon there's gonna have to be someone new in the press box
right.
to.
I can't get Jesse to teach me. Jesse doesn't know any of the slang, so he doesn't help me at all.
It's not going to be me. It's not
the other kids in the office.
Yeah.
It's the interns that keep me up to date. But I try my best. But we appreciate you, man.
When we were finalizing, I just have to say real quick, when we were, I was sending Theo the link and whatnot to join us. He said, "I bet." That was his response, and I was like, I think I know what that means, but I'm not like totally sure. I don't think it warrants a response, so I guess it doesn't really matter one way or another. But yeah, if someone else is going to help Steve, it's certainly not. It's not going to be me.
I guess maybe compared to you, I still sound hip and with the times.
There you go. Absolutely. The shoes, Theo.
Stay young
forever.
Yeah.
Gotta get some new kicks before spring training. That's high on the list.
Jesse had matching kicks with our producer Emma the other day, and it was probably the coolest moment for Jesse and possibly the nerdiest moment for Emma. I'm not sure how that worked out, but
they're genuinely cool shoes. I will probably wear them at spring training tomorrow, but
you should not.
The caveat.
Well, now that you've hyped them up like that, I mean, you've set a high bar for yourself.
They're nice shoes. I'm telling you, they're nice shoes. But the not so cool part of it is that both me and that producer, we both got them from our moms for Christmas, which feels like it kind of takes away from the Christmas factor a little bit.
Tomorrow, how cool these shoes are.
All right, man. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we're looking forward to being out there watching some baseball tomorrow.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it. See you guys tomorrow.
All right, buddy. Thanks again.
See you bright and early.
Oh, man. All right. Well, of course, you can get down if you miss baseball a lot on some future bets over at the BetMGM Sportsbook app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, now is a great time to do so. You can download it on iOS or Android, or go to betmgm.com, sign up using our code of PHNX. And when you do, all you got to do is deposit $5, bet that at a standard odds price, and you will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Of course, you can also tune in to our PHNX bet show and see what Damon has to offer. He is back. Not sure if he's recovered yet from Las Vegas, but he will be functioning again at some point. We're much like the modem and the router. We're going to reboot Damon a couple of times, count to 20 seconds and plug him back in, and he'll be back on bets, churning out those money picks soon enough. But in the meantime, sign up for BetMGM and use that bonus code of PHNX. Place your first sportsbook wager through their sportsbook mobile application for at least $5. You will receive $150 instantly in additional winnings regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Damon talk about the disclaimer.
Promo call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms. This promotional offer is not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. We're still not synced
really
up.
Bad.
I know you and I can maybe dump Damon this time because I'm sure he's had his fill of gambling with his week-long Vegas excursion. But you and I can go get our fill at Gila River Resorts and Casinos because no one does it better. They offer an authentic and immersive experience with an unprecedented level of entertainment that you won't find anywhere else in the desert. They have a state-of-the-art gaming floor with over 800 slot machines, 15 blackjack tables, live table games, and of course, Arizona's largest casino sportsbook. So head to Gila River Resorts and Casinos now and let them show you what the next level is all about. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. Thanks to those of you that are a diehard for joining us today. Of course, thanks to those of you that aren't a diehard for joining us. But if you aren't a diehard, make sure to check out our wonderful membership options over at gophnx.com. Jesse does not put out paywall journalism often, but when he does, you want to make sure you don't miss it. It's going to be good, so don't miss out on anything.
When I do, I get people on Twitter yelling at me for it.
That's right. That's correct. You and Gerald and everybody else. We have to make our money some way, people. Most of what Jesse writes is free, so if you're interested in reading Jesse's articles, just check out gophnx.com. No membership required. Usually it's one article a month that Jesse puts out, maybe two, maybe more. I don't know. If you keep complaining about it, we'll lock them all up. That's the way that works. No, I'm joking. But what we do implore you to do is go out and get a diehard membership. You'll get yourself a free t-shirt from the phnxlocker.com, some discounts from our partners. You'll get some discounts to our events, which all of that kind of pays for the membership in itself. You also get access to our Discord lounge, which is the best place to be an Arizona sports fan. You don't miss out on our game show Squeeze Play, little city council action, of course, discussions with Jesse, and so much more. So there's plenty of reasons for you to be a diehard member today. But if not anything else, it's the wonderful community that we have built here with all of you wonderful people. Because I'll tell you today, we had a couple of diehards, Chris and CWP, stop by our office. And even though we had to leave abruptly due to the internet, it was wonderful to see you guys out there. It was great. They brought us some wonderful Valentine's snacks for all of the beats. And I tell you again, we have the best fans. We have the best diehards in the world. And because of you guys, it's an incredible community for us to be a part of. So we thank you so much for helping us build this thing. And of course, speaking of that, Jesse, this weekend, they got their the party over there at Chase Field for all of their Advantage members. I saw that on the schedule
Saturday.
I do love the fact that some of our community members who are season ticket holders, like the aforementioned Chris Melton, Queen, the den mom of PHNX, have been trying to help out and get people into this party, even if you're not a season ticket holder. So that's been very cool. I know that they've been people are excited, man. It's time. Baseball is back, and I just can't wait to be out there. What is your favorite thing to do as a reporter when you're out at Salt River Fields during this time of the year? Because I'll be honest. I mean, you kind of have to be a little self-motivated. It's not like they're all in one area, they're kind of spread out. They're kind of in different groups. You got to go watch different, like different. I still love seeing major leaguers do like minor league drill, not even minor league, little league drills, like the drills that we have done.
T-ball. Yes.
Yeah, since the day we started playing baseball, rolling the ball to each other on the ground slowly, like all of that stuff that you did as a kid playing baseball, these guys still do to this day. And it starts tomorrow when they're out there doing some of those drills. That's always fascinating for me to watch. I would just sit there a few times and be like, these are the best baseball players in the world, and they're just rolling the ball slowly on the ground to each other. It starts with the fundamentals.
Am I allowed to talk about the Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler thing again? Am I allowed to circle back to that?
No. Why?
No.
Well,
okay.
yes.
Well, hey,
you're still stuck on. Yeah, no, please do. We were moving on to spring trading hype, but you want to talk more about us not getting Jorge Soler.
I have to say one more thing about this. One distinction between Jock Peterson and Jorge Soler that I think is worth pointing out that I didn't quite get to say in our last segment is that Jock Peterson is a platoon guy. The Giants were very heavily protecting him against lefties. And so, Jock Peterson putting up similar or even better numbers than Jorge Soler over a 2-year span. I think it's important to recognize that Jorge Soler is playing against everyone, whereas Jock Peterson is a little bit limited in that sense. I still think Theo made some very valid points, and I'm not so sure if I necessarily would have, gone a different direction and signed Soler instead myself. But I do think that it will be a little weird if the Diamondbacks go out and they get a Tommy Pham or an Adam Duvall or Randall Grichuk, and the combined value of Peterson and whichever one of those guys they get costs more than Jorge Soler does this year. Like if you had the choice,
and if Soler puts up more WAR than those guys combined, then that's especially problematic. Right?
Yeah. Like if you had Jock Peterson and Randall Grichuk, for I think Jock Peterson, he's at $12.5 million if you include the buyout for 2025, which is likely money he's gonna make and wind up walking. If you combine that $12.5 million with another few million for Tommy Pham or Adam Duvall or whomever, you very well might exceed what Jorge Soler is going to be making on an annual basis. And I have to at least ask the question, like, wouldn't you rather have Jorge Soler than have the platoon where you have to roster 2 guys for that spot? So yeah, I'm not saying it's like obvious or anything. There are some valid concerns, like you want another 3-year contract, all that, but that contract was lower than I expected it to be. And it at least made me wonder, like, I wonder what the Diamondbacks thinking was in going elsewhere and signing Jock Peterson instead.
I think it's going to come
Training
down.
hype now.
It's going to come down to the results, right? I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to is that, when they talked about looking at the middle of their lineup, obviously, we know Mike Hazen isn't going to tell us, well, we went and tried to get Soler and we couldn't, right? But when he described them going after Jock Peterson, he talked about looking at the middle of their lineup. He talked about looking at Gurriel, looking at, Gino, and seeing, how maybe they needed to go in a different direction and go after someone like Jock instead of pursuing Jorge Soler. I don't know. I mean, it's there is something to be said about the combinations. If you do bring in another guy to platoon with Jock Peterson, and just the weapons and obviously how you can kind of plan for the different arms you'll be seeing. But if you can have just one guy in the lineup that you rely on most of the time, like Soler, instead of having to worry about starting lineup concerns like that, going lefties versus righties and such, it could have made your life maybe a little easier. I don't know. I was a little disappointed myself to see what Soler went for. I knew that was going to be the case, and I know I'm going to be probably inconsolable when I see what JD Martinez signs for. I'm just going to not be on the show that day. I hope it happens when I'm out at sea, Jesse. That would probably be the absolute best case scenario if it happens sometime between July 23rd and the 26th. But we know
you mean February. You mean February.
What did I say? July? Oh yeah, I'm already
July. Although at this rate, Derek, who the heck knows? Maybe JD Martinez, maybe none of the Boris clients will have signed by the end of July. Who's to say at this point?
Maybe they form their own
league, the off season.
Form their own team. I don't know. That's
there you
possibility. They just go to Portland and Boris is the owner. I don't know. But anyway, Adam Thomas says the D-backs can solve this simply by signing JD Martinez. Yes, they can. Yes, bring me him and then I'm fine. But shout out to all of you guys, of course, for joining us. We appreciate it. Shout out to Tea Time. We hope you guys enjoyed Tea Time Tuesday. Of course, tomorrow we are back with actual reporting news. We will be out at Salt River Field. So we will be doing our show at 2 p.m., hopefully with a strong internet connection from PHNX HQ. Yes. In the meantime, you can make sure to follow us on Twitter. I'm at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Our show is at PHNX_D-backs, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you again for stopping by. Thank you to all of our guests. Theo, excellent. Tea Time, Ryan Thompson. Sorry, Sean, no Meltdown, because for obvious reasons. I think he made a strong case to not go with Meltdown for
That's
sure.
A pretty strong case.
Of course, we will see you guys back here at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Make sure to join us then. We thank you again for your time. Appreciate you for stopping by. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you talk about it with your friends. We all silly like the mayor.